Welcome back to the deep dive. Um, Today we're going to try something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to turn the volume down, like way down. Because if you look at your phone right now or you turn on the news, what do you usually see?
Uh, Chaos.
Hmm.
Pretty much just chaos.
Exactly. It's so loud. It's rallies. It's people screaming in comment sections, 24-hour breaking news banners everywhere.
Right.
It feels like the whole political world is just this contest of who can scream the loudest.
It does. And it creates this very specific illusion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes us feel like politics is entirely about volume, that the person holding the megaphone is the one steering the ship.
Right, but we have a stack of sources today that argues the exact opposite.
Completely the opposite.
We are looking at a really fascinating text titled The Architecture of Quiet Power, and it opens with a line that it completely stopped me in my tracks.
It's a great opening line.
It really is. It says, "Elections are loud, power is quiet."
It's a chilling opening, honestly. And it really sets the stage for the journey we're about to take today.
Yeah, because we aren't just analyzing a textbook here. The source material actually follows a narrative.
Right. It follows a character named Daniel.
And Daniel gets invited into the room where the actual decisions happen.
Not the room you see on TV.
No, the real room.
The real room.
And the mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We want you, the listener, to step into that room alongside Daniel.
To decode the unwritten rules.
Exactly. The rules of influence that operate completely outside of the normal election cycle. We're talking about the silent mechanics of how things actually get done, or, as I suspect we'll find out,
How things get stopped.
yeah,
Yeah.
usually how things get stopped. So let's set the scene. Because this isn't like joining a campaign where you just, sign up online.
Yeah, not at all.
How does Daniel even get into this world?
Well, that's the first lesson the source gives us. There is no sign-up sheet. The entry is described as incredibly subtle.
Subtle how?
It says the invitation doesn't come directly. It never does.
Right.
It's a friend of a friend mentioning a gathering. It's all very vague.
And the descriptors in the text they're just so beige.
Beige is a good word for it.
It's described as a low-key fundraiser or totally off the record.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost designed to sound boring. Like if I got that invite, I'd probably skip it to stay home and watch Netflix.
But that is entirely by design. If it were exciting, the press would be there.
Oh, true.
If it were a big event, you'd have volunteers holding signs and chanting slogans outside. But the text explicitly notes the complete absence of those two groups.
No press, no volunteers.
None. The room is populated solely by people who already won, regardless of what the election results end up being.
So paint the picture for us. Daniel accepts this invite. Where does he actually go?
Yeah.
Is it a fancy gala, like black tie, champagne towers, that sort of thing?
Quite the opposite, actually. The source describes it as aggressively nondescript.
Aggressively nondescript.
Yeah. Think of a hotel conference room on a random Tuesday afternoon. Or a private back room at a steakhouse that hasn't been renovated in 20 years.
Stale coffee.
Wood paneling, stale coffee, low lighting.
So absolutely zero glamour.
None. And the text notes that this lack of glamour is a filter.
A filter.
Yeah. If you're looking for fame, you go to the rally. If you're looking for the cameras, you go out to the press conference.
Right.
If you are in this boring, beige room, it means you're there to work.
It signals that this is a business meeting.
Not a performance, exactly.
Okay, so Daniel walks into this beige room, and I think, like most of us would, he's probably expecting some high-level political debate.
Naturally.
People arguing over tax codes or social policy or, I don't know, saving the world. But he gets hit with a vibe check almost immediately.
He does. The realization is instant for him. He looks around and notes, this room doesn't ask who you voted for. It asks who you know.
Okay, let's pause right there.
Yeah.
Who you know. That sounds a little cliche, doesn't it?
It does sound like a cliche.
Like, oh, it's all about who you know in this town. We hear that all the time.
We do, but in this specific context, it's actually highly technical. The source calls it relational capital.
Right. You mentioned relational capital in the notes earlier. That just sounds like corporate buzzword bingo to me.
It kind of does.
What does that actually look like in practice for someone like Daniel?
A fair question.
Okay.
So in the outside world, capital is usually money or votes.
Right.
Here, it's about the strength and the speed of your network. It's not, I have $1 million. It's, I can get the Senate Majority Leader on the phone in 5 minutes, and he will actually pick up.
So it's about access speed.
Speed and reliability.
Yeah.
In that room, if you casually say, I know him, it implies he owes me.
Wow.
That is the currency. And Daniel realizes pretty quickly that he is walking in with empty pockets.
So who are the whales in this room? Who's holding all this currency?
The text lists them out very clearly. We're talking about massive donors, lobbyists, union leaders, and high-level consultants.
But here's the thing that really caught me. The source points out that some of these people never run for office.
Sure.
Some of them never even appear on a ballot.
Correct. They are completely behind the scenes.
And yet, the text says all of them shape outcomes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this leads to a fascinating observation Daniel makes about the style of conversation in that room.
Yeah, the way they talk to each other.
Right. They aren't talking about beliefs. They aren't debating, is this new bill good for the country? They are just exchanging stories.
Dropping names.
Exactly. Dropping names constantly. The text describes it as if everyone here has already been decided. They are past the point of persuasion.
There's a line in the source that I underlined twice. It says, they don't pick sides, they pick winners.
That is arguably the defining characteristic of this layer of power. Pragmatism over ideology.
I find that shift from beliefs to stories so fascinating. But wait, how can you pick a winner without picking a side?
What do you mean?
If I'm a big donor, don't I inherently want the blue team or the red team to win based on my values?
See, that's how voters think. We've been trained to think of politics as a team sport.
Right.
But for the people in this room, these architects of quiet power ideology is just a distraction. They are pragmatic investors. They invest in viability.
So they're hedging their bets.
Constantly hedging. Think about it. If you are a massive construction lobbyist, you really don't care if the person signing the infrastructure bill is a Democrat or a Republican.
As long as they sign the bill.
Exactly. You want a return on your investment. If you pick a side strictly on ideology and that side loses, you lose all your access.
Like you pick a winner.
Regardless of the side, you maintain your influence.
Man, that is incredibly cynical.
It feels cynical to us.
Yeah.
But from their perspective, it's just practical.
Okay, so let's unpack how they actually exercise this influence, because I think we all have this movie version of power in our heads where it's people banging on tables, smoking cigars, and making threats.
Right, the dramatic arm twisting in a smoky back room, do this or else.
Exactly. But the source material paints a completely different picture. It talks about soft power.
Yes, it says, no one makes demands. They suggest.
They suggest.
This is the language of control in the quiet room. It is extremely polite, it is civilized, and it is incredibly effective.
The examples of this coded language in the text are just so patronizingly helpful.
They really are.
Things like, that race is already decided, or this district isn't ready.
Or my personal favorite, you'd be better off waiting.
It sounds like career advice. It literally sounds like a mentor looking out for you. Like, hey, buddy, maybe sit this one out for your own good.
And that is exactly why it works so well. It masks the gatekeeping as benevolence.
Wow.
When they say, this district isn't ready, what they are really saying is, we have decided not to back you here.
Right.
When they say, you'd be better off waiting, they actually mean, it's not your turn, we have someone else in mind.
So they're drawing a boundary, but they're doing it with a smile.
Exactly. Every sentence sounds helpful, but as the text explicitly says, every word draws the boundary. It guides the candidate down a very specific path.
The path of least resistance for the power brokers.
Precisely.
And then there is the money. We have to talk about the money dynamic in this.
Oh, yes.
Because again, it's not a suitcase full of cash being slid across a table.
No, that's way too dramatic. That gets you caught.
Right.
The text says money change your hands. Not dramatically.
It's
It's always framed as support,
as belief.
as partnership.
We believe in your vision.
Right. But Daniel, our protagonist here, he has this moment of absolute clarity during the event.
The core reversal.
Yes,
Ugh.
a complete reversal in his thinking. He realizes, and this is a direct quote, funding doesn't follow ideas. Ideas follow funding.
Okay, I need you to break this down for me.
Sure.
Because usually we think, I have a great idea. I want to fix the roads in my town.
Right.
I run for office, I tell people my great idea, and they give me money to make it happen. That's how it's supposed to work, isn't it?
That is the democratic ideal.
Yeah.
The classic bottom-up approach. But in the architecture of quiet power, it works the exact opposite way.
How so? Give me an example.
Think of it like a venture capitalist looking for a startup to invest in.
Yeah.
They already have a thesis in mind, say they want to invest in AI and healthcare. They aren't sitting around their office waiting for a founder to come in and convince them that AI is a good idea. They already know what they want to fund.
Right.
They're just waiting for a founder who already fits the thesis they want to execute.
So bringing it back to this political context, the thesis is the legislation the donor wants passed.
Exactly. A massive construction lobby doesn't wait for a young candidate to have a brilliant original idea about infrastructure. They already have the bill written.
They wrote it themselves.
They wrote it, and they have the capital ready to deploy. They're just shopping for a candidate who looks the part and speaks well enough to carry that bill across the finish line.
So the candidate isn't the architect of the policy. They're just the vehicle.
Essentially, yes. If your ideas naturally align with where the funding is already flowing, you get backed.
And if you have a bold new idea that doesn't align with their existing capital flows.
Well, then you get told this district isn't ready.
Wow. So the ideas that actually see the light of day, the policies we end up debating on the nightly news are just the ones that survived this filtering process in the quiet room.
Correct. Political scientists often call this the invisible primary.
The invisible primary.
It narrows the window of political possibility before a single citizen casts a vote.
That is wild. And that brings us to the pivotal moment in the source material, the test.
Yes.
A test of character.
Daniel is in the room. He's navigating the beige walls and the stale coffee, and someone finally approaches him directly. And this really feels like the climax of his initiation.
It's the entire vetting process boiled down to one single interaction.
The person asks him a question, and the question is not, what do you stand for?
No.
It's, what do you want?
It's such a revealing question. What do you stand for is about values. It's about morality. It's rigid.
Right.
What do you want is entirely about transaction.
Why does the source call that a test? Why does that distinction matter so much to these people?
Yeah.
Because if you answer with what you stand for, you mark yourself as an idealist. You mark yourself as someone who acts on principle.
And people who act on principle are difficult to manage.
Because they might say no.
Uh,
Exactly. But if you answer with what you want, maybe it's a committee seat, a specific title, influence support for a pet project, then they know they can do business with you.
They know your price.
Or at least they know your motivation. If they know what you hunger for, they can feed you. The text breaks down the rules of engagement for this answer perfectly.
It says, ambition is acceptable. Independence is not.
Right.
Okay, let's hold on that for a second. Ambition is acceptable. Independence is not. That feels deeply contradictory to me. Don't you need to be ambitious to be an independent leader?
You do, but in this specific room, they want you to be hungry.
Yeah.
A hungry person needs the system to ride. They need the access.
Right.
But an independent person,
Yeah.
someone who doesn't actually need the room's money or influence, that person is dangerous to them.
The text mentions this delicate balance Daniel has to strike in his head while answering. It says, too bold, he's reckless. Too humble, he's irrelevant.
It's the Goldilocks zone of pliability. You need to be strong enough to win an actual election, but pliable enough to listen to their advice once you're in office.
And this leads to the source's definition of these power brokers. And I have to be honest with you, I really struggled with this part of the reading.
I noticed you frowning when you read that section.
Well, yeah, because the text says the power brokers aren't corrupt, they're efficient.
I know.
I mean, come on, we're talking about buying influence. We're talking about pre-selecting candidates before the public even gets a say. How is that not corruption? It just sounds like corruption wearing a nice tie.
I completely get that reaction. It feels dirty. But the source makes a really uncomfortable, nuanced point here.
Okay, what is it?
Corruption usually implies breaking the rules, right?
Yeah.
Taking cash in envelopes, illegal wire transfers, literal bribes.
Sure.
If you do that, you go to jail. That's messy. That's highly risky.
And these people hate risk.
Exactly. The efficiency comes from legalizing the influence.
Oh, I see.
It's not a bribe, it's a speaking fee, it's not a payoff. It's a lucrative consulting contract for your spouse. It's a massive donation to a super PANCH that you legally don't coordinate with.
Right.
The source argues that true power doesn't break the law because it doesn't have to, it wrote the law.
That is profoundly frustrating.
It is. It really is. But if you want to understand how the system functions, you have to understand that these brokers view themselves as risk managers, not villains.
And what is the biggest risk they are trying to manage?
Unpredictability. The text is very explicit here. It says, they don't care who you are, only whether you're predictable. And unpredictability is the only sin.
Unpredictability is the only sin. That sounds like something a Wall Street stockbroker would say, not a political leader.
But this room is a market. Think about it. If they're going to pour millions of dollars into a candidate's campaign, they need to know exactly how that candidate will vote on the key issues that affect their bottom line 3 years from now.
This actually explains so much about modern politics for me.
How so?
Well, you see these candidates who are incredibly popular on, say, Twitter or TikTok. They have huge, energetic rallies. Everyone seems to love them online.
Yeah.
And then they just vanish. They drop out before Super Tuesday.
And the mainstream narrative is usually, oh, they just couldn't get the fundraising together.
Right. But according to this source, it's not that they couldn't find the money. It's that the money looked at them and saw a risk.
They saw a wild card.
Exactly.
The source states clearly the system can survive opposition. It cannot survive randomness.
No.
If a major donor can't predict your behavior, you are simply a bad investment. They would rather back a boring, middle-of-the-road candidate who loses the election than back a wild candidate who wins and then goes completely rogue.
So Daniel is standing there, passing this test, navigating these loaded questions. He's showing he's ambitious but not independent. And the text describes the feeling of this access as intoxicating.
It is,
Whispers to him that he is almost there.
it is the ultimate seduction of inclusion. Being on the inside always feels better than being on the outside looking in. But as Daniel gets closer, he starts to sense the actual cost.
The hidden price tag.
And it's a very specific chain of events described in the source. First, access leads to obligation.
Meaning, now you owe them.
Right, you took their help, you took the quiet introduction, you accepted the partnership, now you have a debt. And obligation leads directly to silence.
Silence about what, though?
Silence about the things that might upset the people in that room. Silence about the deep structural issues that actually benefit the very people who just funded your rise.
Wow.
The text says, silence is how systems stay intact.
That is chilling to me. Because it's not that someone puts a gun to your head in a back alley and tells you to lie. It's just that you slowly learn what not to say.
Exactly. You learn which battles are deemed winnable and which ones are framed as distractions.
And coincidentally, the distractions are usually the exact things that would challenge the power structure of that beige room.
Funny how that works.
The source then zooms out to contrast this quiet room with what the public actually sees. It says, voters see campaigns. They don't see this room.
Voters see the theater of it all. They see the attack ads, the televised debates, the catchy slogans.
But Daniel now sees the machinery behind the curtain.
Yes, he sees how futures are negotiated before the first vote is ever cast.
It's the idea that the menu has already been curated before we even sit down at the restaurant.
I love that analogy.
We get to choose our meal, sure, but we didn't get to choose what was put on the menu in the first place.
That's perfectly said. And the text adds this really poignant thought. Once you see the structure, you can never unsee it.
It's a total loss of innocence for him.
It is. You can never go back to believing that the loud part of the election, the rallies, the debates, is the only part that matters.
The source material actually ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, teasing the next part of Daniel's story. It mentions something called coffee talk.
Right, where Daniel is offered his first real, tangible deal.
The text says he's offered support in exchange for loyalty, and the price is his conscience.
Classic Faustian bargain. It's the ultimate crossroads for him. But I think what's really interesting for us today is not just whatever choice Daniel ends up making, but the system itself that forces that choice upon him.
Precisely. The system is entirely designed to extract that conscience, or at least to subordinate it to the needs of the group in exchange for the power to actually do something.
It's the ultimate paradox of politics, isn't it?
To get the power to change things, you have to first agree not to change too much.
That is the architecture of quiet power in a nutshell. It prioritizes stability and predictability above absolutely all else.
So let's bring this all back to you, the listener. We've stepped into the beige room today. We've met the quiet players. We've learned their coded language. Why does this matter to someone who is just trying to be a good citizen and follow the news?
I think it matters immensely because it should fundamentally change how you consume the political narrative.
How so?
When you see a popular candidate drop out suddenly, or you see a widely supported policy proposal just vanish from the national conversation, don't just look at the loud explanations they feed you.
Don't just listen to the official press conference.
Right. Ask yourself, who went quiet? Who offered some friendly advice?
Who decided that the district wasn't ready?
Exactly. It reminds us to constantly look for the invisible boundaries that are being drawn around our democratic choices.
It's about recognizing that silence is an action.
Yes. In this world, silence is often the most powerful action there is.
And I just can't stop thinking about that idea of unpredictability. If the entire system is optimized for predictability, if the ultimate sin is being a wild card,
Then we end up with a political landscape that feels incredibly stagnant, because innovation is, by definition, unpredictable.
Real change is unpredictable.
Always.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with today. We are always told to be responsible voters, right? We are told to look for stability, to look for experience.
We are.
But if the architecture of quiet power is specifically designed to filter out anything remotely risky, are we actually voting for change when we pick a serious candidate? Or are we just selecting which pre-approved version of stability we prefer?
And if the powerful fear unpredictability more than anything else in the world, maybe being unpredictable is actually a citizen's greatest superpower.
Maybe the most disruptive thing you can do is just not fit their thesis. Something to think about next time you see a low-key fundraiser happening in your town. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.